We are born into a world already spinning. Names are given to us before we speak. Beliefs are handed to us before we think. And long before we learn who we are, we're told who we should be. Most people never question this. They grow into molds. They wear inherited masks. And they shrink their true selves to fit expectations that were never theirs to begin with. This isn't life. This is performance. From the time we are children, we're surrounded by voices louder than our own. Some of them speak with love, some with fear, and some with manipulation disguised as advice. They tell us what success means, what love looks like, what to value, what to avoid, who to trust, and who to become. But here's the quiet truth. Not all of these voices deserve to shape us. We live in an emotional ecosystem. The people we surround ourselves with become our mirror, our music, and our weather. They color our thinking. They bend our mood. They nudge our beliefs without us even noticing. Psychologists call this emotional contagion. It's the idea that moods and mindsets are contagious. And it's more than theory. It's biology. Your brain contains mirror neurons. They are designed to reflect the emotional states of others. This is why a calm person can soothe a room, and a negative one can infect it. If you surround yourself with criticism, you will begin to doubt. If you surround yourself with fear, you will begin to shrink. If you surround yourself with bitterness, you will forget how to feel joy. It is not weakness to be affected. It is human. But what we tolerate repeatedly becomes what we internalize. And what we internalize becomes who we believe we are. This is how people lose themselves. Not all at once, but slowly, quietly, by absorbing the shadows of others until they can no longer recognize their own light. Sometimes the people who shaped you no longer serve you. Sometimes the ones who raised you emotionally keep you small. Not because they are evil, but because they never learned to grow. You are not obligated to remain in someone else's story if it's killing your own. Socrates once said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." He was not talking about philosophy textbooks. He was talking about awareness. He was talking about courage. He was talking about refusing to live a life written by other people's fears. Your life does not belong to those who expect you to remain silent. It does not belong to those who shame your growth. It does not belong to those who weaponize guilt to keep you in their orbit. Your life belongs to you. But to reclaim it, you must first face a difficult truth. Not everyone who walks with you wants to see you fly. Not everyone who claps for you wants you to succeed beyond their shadow. Some people love the version of you that serves their needs, not your potential. That's the version they will fight to keep. And when you begin to change, they will call it betrayal. They will say you're cold, that you've changed, that you've forgotten where you came from. But growth always sounds like rebellion to those who remain stuck. It always looks like arrogance to those who gave up on themselves. You are not responsible for managing someone else's comfort if it costs you your soul. Seneca, a Roman Stoic philosopher, said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." He wasn't talking about elitism. He was talking about alignment. You don't need perfect people. You need honest people. Evolving people. People who challenge you with love and celebrate your becoming. People who don't feel threatened by your light, because they found their own. But before you can find those people, you must be willing to leave the ones who keep you small. Even if they raised you. Even if they loved you once. Even if you've known them your whole life. You do not owe anyone your stagnation in exchange for their approval. This is not abandonment. This is liberation. It is the moment you stop asking for permission to become who you were meant to be. Nietzsche once said, "He who cannot obey himself will be commanded." And most people obey without ever knowing they're doing it. They obey the loudest voice in the room. They obey the fear of judgment. They obey the stories of their past. They obey the people who would rather see them predictable than powerful. But you were not born to be predictable. You were born to evolve. To do that, you must become intentional about who gets access to your mind, your heart, and your energy. You must stop calling dysfunction loyalty. You must stop calling guilt love. You must stop calling survival peace. Peace is not found in pleasing everyone. Peace is found in aligning your actions with your truth. And the deeper truth is this: you cannot become who you truly are while clinging to what no longer fits. You cannot heal while staying in the same environment that made you sick. You cannot grow in soil that was never meant for you. This doesn't mean you must hate them. It doesn't mean you must fight them. It means you release them. With grace. With clarity. With strength. You thank the lesson. You close the chapter. And you walk forward. Because your life is waiting. And it cannot begin until you stop living someone else's. The greatest act of self-love is choosing your becoming over their comfort. And that choice? It changes everything. Leaving negative people behind sounds simple. But most of us don't. Not because we enjoy the pain, but because we've normalized it. We tell ourselves stories to justify the weight we carry. We call it love. We call it duty. We call it loyalty. But it's not always any of those things. It's conditioning. It's fear. It's identity. For many of us, the people we need to walk away from are the same ones who helped shape who we are. They were there in our formative years. They were our family. Our friends. Our first loves. They gave us attention, guidance, or protection, even if it came with pain. So we cling. Not just to them, but to the version of ourselves we were when we needed them. That version still remembers needing their approval, their validation, their permission. Even if those things came with control. Even if they came with manipulation. Even if they came with emotional punishment. You see, the mind forms bonds to survive. Even to pain. Even to people who hurt us. This is called trauma bonding. It's when the emotional highs and lows of a relationship create an addictive loop. You feel mistreated. Then you feel seen again. Then you feel dismissed. Then they love bomb you back into place. And so you stay. Not because it's healthy, but because it's familiar. Familiarity is one of the strongest forces in the human brain. Your nervous system prefers a predictable pain over an unknown freedom. That's why some people stay in toxic environments for years. It feels safer than stepping into the unknown. But here's the truth. Familiar pain is still pain. Predictable chaos is still chaos. And comfort zones aren't always comfortable. They're just known. You are not weak for staying too long. You are human. You were doing the best you could with what you knew. But now you know more. And knowing more means you have to choose differently. Nietzsche said, "Man is the rope stretched between the animal and the overman, a rope over an abyss." That abyss? It's the unknown. It's the space between who you were and who you could become. And the rope is tension. The pull of your past. The whisper of your future. And your own fear echoing between them. Leaving negative people isn't just an external decision. It's an internal transformation. You are not just walking away from someone else. You are walking away from the you who once needed them. That means grieving. Yes, grieving. Even if they were toxic. Even if they hurt you. You may grieve the moments that felt real. You may grieve the version of yourself that believed it was love. You may grieve the time lost, the memories made, the comfort they gave. That grief is not weakness. It is clarity. And it is healing. But still, there's a voice inside. One that says, what if I'm wrong? What if they can change? What if I just tried harder? These are normal thoughts. But they are also traps. They place the responsibility for someone else's behavior on your shoulders. And while people can change, change is a choice. It's not your job to suffer in hopes that one day they decide to grow. You do not heal by staying in the fire. You heal by stepping out of it. Stoicism teaches us to focus only on what we can control. You cannot control their mindset, their growth, their empathy, or their willingness to take responsibility. You can only control your decisions. So ask yourself, if I met this person today, knowing what I now know, would I choose to build a bond with them? If the answer is no, then why does the past have more weight than the present? You are allowed to outgrow people. You are allowed to change your mind about who belongs in your life. You are allowed to protect your peace. Protecting your peace is not selfish. It is necessary. When you stay in toxic relationships, you unconsciously send a message to yourself. A message that says, my well-being doesn't matter. My voice doesn't matter. My needs can wait. But the longer you wait, the more distant your true self becomes. Self-betrayal is a slow erosion. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens in the small moments you say yes when you want to say no. In the moments you laugh at jokes that hurt you. In the silence you keep to avoid an argument. In the time you give when your soul is exhausted. Little by little, you disappear. And one day, you look in the mirror and wonder where you went. This is not how it has to be. There is another way. A braver way. A truer way. It starts with awareness. It grows through boundaries. And it becomes real through action. You don't need a dramatic confrontation. You don't need revenge. You don't even need closure from them. You need a decision. A quiet, steady decision that says, I choose me. And that doesn't make you heartless. It makes you whole. You can love people from a distance. You can forgive them without inviting them back into your life. You can honor what they taught you without keeping them in your future. Because the future you're building is too valuable to be shaped by people who never truly saw you. Your path is calling. And it's not paved with guilt. It's paved with truth. Every step away from what harms you is a step toward who you're meant to be. And while the world may not understand your decision, and while some may judge, criticize, or question, they are not the ones who live in your body. They are not the ones who carry your pain. They are not the ones who know what it's like to feel unseen, unheard, or unvalued. You do. And that's enough. You know what peace feels like, even if only in glimpses. You know what truth sounds like, even if it scares you. You know what freedom could look like, even if you've never tasted it. So trust that knowing. Let it guide you. Let it lift you. And when the guilt creeps in, when the doubt returns, when the fear whispers, what if I'm wrong? Whisper back, what if I'm finally right? You've left the noise behind. The chaos. The guilt. The emotional weight that wasn't yours to carry. But now comes the harder part. Not the leaving. The remembering. Because when you've spent your life living for other people's comfort, when you've molded yourself to fit inside someone else's idea of who you should be, you begin to forget. You forget the sound of your own voice. You forget your instincts. You forget your power. And without realizing it, you become a stranger to your own soul. So how do you find yourself again? How do you remember who you were before the world told you who to be? You begin by becoming still. In the stillness, the truth returns. Not as a shout. Not as a demand. But as a whisper. It will sound like longing. Like hunger. Like possibility. Like something inside you waking up after a long, dreamless sleep. This is not reinvention. It is unearthing. You are not creating a new self. You are removing what never belonged. All the masks. All the roles. All the expectations. All the fears. You peel them away, layer by layer, until you find something unshakable beneath it all. That something is you. Your true self is not a performance. It is not curated. It is not made to be approved. It simply is. It knows what it loves. It knows what it needs. It knows what it cannot tolerate, no matter how polite you've learned it to be. And that self, that essence, cannot fully emerge while you are still making space for people who silence it. Socrates taught that wisdom begins with self-knowledge. Not knowledge of the world. Not knowledge of politics. But the inner world. Who are you, really? What do you believe when no one else is speaking? What do you feel when no one else is watching? What do you want when guilt is not louder than desire? These questions are not luxuries. They are your foundation. And the answers aren't outside of you. They're buried. Buried beneath years of adaptation. Buried beneath trauma. Buried beneath relationships that asked you to dim so they could shine. But you are no longer living in survival mode. You no longer owe anyone your silence. You no longer need to twist yourself into versions that win approval but cost you your soul. This is your time to remember. To return. To rise. The return to self is not always graceful. Sometimes it's messy. Sometimes it's lonely. Sometimes it's terrifying. But what is waiting for you on the other side is worth every moment of discomfort. Imagine waking up without dread. Imagine speaking without filtering your truth. Imagine moving through the world without the weight of needing to be liked by people who don't even understand you. That is not fantasy. That is your birthright. And to reclaim it, you must begin to make new choices. The first choice is space. Space to think. Space to feel. Space to breathe without being told how to. The second choice is silence. Not the silence of suppression, but the silence of listening inward, of letting your inner voice speak louder than your conditioning. And the third choice is creation. Who do you want to become? Not for them. Not for status. Not for performance. But for you. What would your life look like if it was designed from truth instead of fear? What would you pursue if no one was watching? What would you let go of if no one would judge you for it? These are not small questions. They are the beginning of freedom. Nietzsche wrote that we must become who we are. Not who we're told to be. Not who our parents dreamed of. Not who society praises. But who we truly are underneath all the noise. That's your task now. To make peace with the unknown. To walk forward even when the path is foggy. To trust that clarity comes through action, not overthinking. You don't need all the answers before you begin. You just need the courage to take one step, then another, then another. And as you walk, you'll notice something strange. You'll feel lighter. You'll breathe deeper. You'll laugh more easily. You'll feel whole, not because everything is perfect, but because you are finally living in alignment. That alignment is sacred. It's what the Stoics called virtue. Living in accordance with your nature. With reason. With clarity. With integrity. And the more you live in alignment, the more you stop needing people who once made you feel incomplete. You stop chasing approval. You stop fearing rejection. You stop performing. And you begin being. Being honest. Being grounded. Being free. The version of you that once tolerated mistreatment. That version was trying to survive. And you can honor them, but you don't have to stay them. You've grown. You've seen too much. You felt too deeply. And now you're ready. Ready to build a life that reflects the depth of your becoming. Ready to surround yourself with people who recognize your soul without needing you to shrink. Ready to rise into the life that was waiting on the other side of your silence. This is not a fantasy. It is your responsibility. To yourself. To the people you will inspire. To the life you are meant to create. No one can give you this life. You must claim it. No one can hand you peace. You must build it. No one can choose your truth. You must live it. And the first step, always, is leaving behind what isn't real. Because the truth of who you are cannot survive in the presence of those who deny it. It cannot breathe in rooms where it's not welcome. It cannot grow in soil soaked with guilt. But once you remove the dead roots, once you clear the space, once you choose yourself fully, something extraordinary begins. You begin to recognize yourself again. Not the version the world molded, but the one who was always underneath. You are not broken. You were buried. You are not too late. You are just in time. And now, you are free. You've done something most people never do. You left behind what no longer serves you. You remembered who you are beneath the noise. You stood in the fire of discomfort and chose yourself. But now the question becomes, what do you build in the silence that follows? What does a life aligned with your truth actually look like? And how do you make sure you never return to who you were before? The answer is simple. But it isn't easy. You build deliberately. You rebuild from the ground up. This time, not from fear. Not from scarcity. Not from who you think you should be. But from clarity. From presence. From purpose. Every habit you form. Every boundary you set. Every person you invite into your inner world becomes a brick in the foundation of your new life. And this foundation must be sacred. Because once you've known peace, you will never be able to tolerate chaos again. Once you've felt truth, the lie becomes unbearable. You will outgrow people faster. You will notice manipulation quicker. You will sense inauthenticity like a storm on the horizon. And that's not arrogance. That's growth. Growth rewires what you can accept. And from that rewiring, new standards are born. You stop chasing people who make you feel hard to love. You stop explaining your worth to those committed to misunderstanding you. You stop betraying yourself to keep the peace. Because the peace you're building is no longer conditional. It is internal. It is chosen. And it is protected. So how do you protect it? How do you stay in alignment when the world tries to pull you back into roles you've outgrown? First, by choosing your circle intentionally. You are not meant to walk alone, but you are meant to walk with people who see you clearly. People who don't flinch when you speak your truth. People who celebrate your boundaries. People who are committed to growth, even when it's messy. You don't need perfect people. You need real ones. And to find them, you must become one. Because like attracts like. Clarity attracts clarity. Integrity attracts integrity. Peace attracts peace. So become what you seek. Speak your truth, even when it shakes. Keep your word, even when it's inconvenient. Show up fully, even when it's easier to hide. Your energy will draw the right people and repel the wrong ones. Let that happen. Not everyone is meant to walk with you. Not everyone is meant to understand you. Some people are chapters, not lifelines. And letting them go is not a loss. It's a realignment. Because you are no longer living a life built on permission. You are living a life built on truth. And that truth demands structure. Not rigidity. Not perfection. But rhythm. You build your life like a garden. You don't plant once and forget it. You tend to it. You check in. You notice what's thriving and what's not. You make space for growth. You pull out what's dead. And slowly, over time, your life begins to reflect your soul. The work isn't in pretending to be someone new. The work is in staying connected to who you really are. Because the world will still try to distract you. People from your past may return. Old habits may whisper. Comfort zones may call you back. But now you have tools. You have awareness. You have evidence. You know what it feels like to live half alive, and you're never going back. Remember this. Your energy is expensive. Your peace is sacred. Your truth is enough. You are no longer the version of yourself who tolerated dysfunction to feel needed. You are no longer the version who confused love with control. You are no longer the version who kept quiet just to keep others comfortable. That version served you. It got you through. But now, it's time to live. Not survive. Not perform. Live. To wake up and choose yourself again and again. To speak without apology. To feel without shame. To build without compromise. This is the life you were always meant to live. A life where your inner voice is louder than external pressure. A life where your relationships reflect your self-worth. A life where your peace isn't something you chase, it's something you protect. And when challenges come, because they will, you will meet them with clarity. You will respond, not react. You will return to your truth instead of retreating into your past. Because this is who you are now. Not a shell. Not a role. Not a reaction. But a grounded, powerful, sovereign human being. You didn't get here overnight. You earned this. With every boundary you set. With every silence you broke. With every goodbye you didn't want to say, but needed to. You are living proof that it's possible. To outgrow pain. To outlive shame. To outshine the stories that once held you back. So keep going. Keep building. Keep choosing you. Because the life you're creating is not just for you. It's a signal. It's a light. It's a reminder to others that they can do the same. That freedom is possible. That authenticity is worth it. That leaving isn't losing, it's beginning. So if you ever doubt, if you ever feel like turning back, remember this: you didn't leave because you were cold. You left because you were finally warm enough to stop freezing for others. You didn't walk away because you stopped loving them. You walked away because you started loving yourself. You didn't become someone new. You finally had the courage to become who you've always been. And that is power.